Maquis. This is a game that I saw in my friendly local game store, and from the box, the title, the cover, it looked interesting because the topic is the French resistance in World War II. And then I read the back of the box about the mechanics. Solitaire worker placement? Hello, I'm in because I like worker placement games and I like to have the solitaire option. However, differently from many worker placement games that come out these days that have that option, this is the only option. This game is only solitaire. I guess you could play it cooperatively, of course, with multiple players making all the decisions together, but at its core, this is a solitaire game in which the player controls a group of freedom fighters. 3 are available at the beginning of the game, and they're fighting against the German occupation, both German soldiers and la milice, meaning the French people that are siding with the Germans and helping in oppressing and terrorizing their fellow countrymen and women. The production is really nice. It's really high quality. Look at the board. It looks good. It's thick. It has these inlaid areas here in which you can add multiple and different locations later. So the board may change from game to game. Wooden components representing the characters and different types of resources and goods that you will collect. Thick tokens, really good production, which I guess is probably what drove up the price a little bit. I paid a little over $30, which again, for a small game that you only play by yourself, is on the expensive side, relatively speaking, I believe. But luckily enough, again, it looks great. And also, gameplay is good. Spoiler alert for the conclusions here, but this is a good game, so I don't regret the investment. Now, the game is mission-based, so in order to win, you need to complete 2 missions before the time runs out. If you complete only one, you at least tie, but you want to complete both. The missions have different degrees of difficulty, as indicated by the number of stars that you see there, and simply they're self-explanatory. They will ask you to collect goods, deliver goods, destroy stuff, yes, kill people from time to time. This is the war. And if you want to pause, you will be able to see the text, and so you know what some of these are. Now, most of them, as you can see, have a little line there at the bottom. That means that they represent not just missions, but also locations. So you place them next to the board and connecting them to the board. So that's another way in which the board changes from game to game as the missions become different locations requiring you to do different things. For example, here, to complete that mission, the underground newspapers, I need to deliver 2 intel to these locations on 3 separate days. Yes, there are also different timers for different things, some options. You're going to kill somebody who is only going to parade around town in specific days, so that also matters. We have a deck of patrol cards representing where the milice will usually go. And if you attract too much attention, usually by shooting the milice, they start being replaced by the German soldiers that are a lot scary and you cannot shoot. The only way to get past one of them is by using a fake ID. You can also use the fake ID to go past the milice, and that doesn't antagonize the occupying Germans. Now, worker placement, right? It's like crazy. It's like best of both worlds. We got worker placement and a war theme. I couldn't believe it. Now, each turn it represents a day, and in each turn, the turn starts by placing, is worker placement. And the placement phase starts by the active player placing one worker, one member of the resistance, in a location on the board. Then the patrols, the enemies will place a worker, then you place one, and so on and so forth. The game starts with you placing 3 and they placing 3. The number may change because I may recruit more people later. There are 2 possible recruits at the beginning of the game. Also, the morale of the town may change during the game, and the lower the morale goes, the higher this red number here is. What does that mean? That means at the beginning of a turn, I'm going to establish how many enemies are going to be placed on the board. And the number is the highest between my own resistance members, the more people are there, the more the enemy is responding. That has between either the number of resistance members I have or the red number currently associated with the morale of the town. So I have 3 there, the morale is there, and the number is 4, then I will need to place 4 enemies this turn, for example. How do we place them? Well, first I take one of these fine people here from the safe house and I place them in any location on the board. And the first time you play, that makes you feel pretty cavalier because you think, it's a word placement game. I know how to do it. I'm going to collect more people, collect more goods, do the actions that they want. And they get captured and get trapped. And at the end of turn 1, you lost most of my agents, which is exactly what happened to me the first turn of the first game that I play. I'll show you why that may happen. So first, I'm going to place one of my workers from the safe house in any location. I don't have to do it. I could keep them in the safe house. Horrible idea, but I could. I decide to send them to the grocer. Then I take the patrol deck and I draw the card on top and I look at the first location because now I need to place a member of the milice. Again, later you at the beginning there are only members of the milice. Later you may have to place a combination of milice and soldiers. I look at the top location and I place an enemy there if the location is empty. Radio A is empty, so they go there. And suppose that then I decide that I want to send my next member to the black market. And then I draw the next card. And again, starting from the top, I see the location is empty. Nope, there's somebody there. It's the grocer. So I go to the next one. So they place the next one in the Pont du Nord. Right there. Then I place my next one. And suppose I want to place that person to Radio B. And I place the next one, which is Pont l'Evêque. And that completes the placement for this round. Pretty simple, right? However, here is the thing. Then when I'm placing game pieces and I'm going through the list, it may be later on that they're all occupied by a combination of previous milice and my own people. If I go through all locations and I cannot place a German soldier on milice, I go back from the top, I check them again, but this time, if there is some a member of the resistance in that location, they capture them. So that's how you get captured. And when you get captured, the game piece is removed and is completely out of the game. That's why keeping a low profile is so important. Yeah. Worker placements, having more workers is always good. I mean, that's very common in worker placements. But here you got, say, 4 or let alone 5. Then they bring at least 5 people. Somebody's going to get captured. That's the way it is. The recruit action, which you take here, is probably going to be better used to replace people that were captured rather than to have a large group to start with. Another important thing, after we place our workers, we resolve the actions, we need to be able to bring these people back. So, for example, the action at the grocer is I get to collect food if my worker has a way to go back there. And so in that case, that would be the case. I resolve that action, I take the food. The black market action, I can trade food or medicines for money, but that also depresses people. And so that would also lower the morale. But let's say I decide to do that. I trade food for money, I lower the morale, and I can do that because this person can go back there. And that's what I showed you the first time that I played the game. I played like an abstract, say, worker placement game where I just maximize the action. So go recruit more people, go to the radio, go to, I don't remember what the other action was, but I know it was somewhere up here. Oh yeah, collect some medicines, that's very great. And the milice plays there. And now these 2 people couldn't make it back to the safe house. So there is a bottleneck here that I would say is one of the linchpins of the design. And that's why in the example they showed, it was a little more sensible because I started spreading out that way, pretty much trying to protect my way back. This is super important. It really gives you this very thematic feel of, exploring the area, making sure that before you go too far, you have a way of coming back. There's a sense of paranoia and suspicions. It's a stunning way of using worker placement to replace the sense, to reproduce or give you a sense of the sense of paranoia and suspicion of being a resistant member in an oppressive society. Really cool. So, and that's why some locations on the board allow you to spend money to place new tiles. And that's why something that I really like to do is to place a safe house here, because then if they do take control of that stuff, then I'm still able to place my members of the resistance back in a safe house. This is super important, again, because later you do need to go, remember, to those locations very often. And from here to there, it feels like a long way. They have just so many ways of blocking access to that safe house. So just to give you a sense of some of the actions that you get on the board, again, if you're in the spare room and you spend 2 money, you can place one of those tiles there. And you see that the actions that have a little shield there are actions that you get to complete even if your resistance member is captured. Other actions like collecting food, you lose the resistance member and you don't get the action. So we have areas where you can build spare rooms, again, collect food, trade food or medicine for money, trade food or medicine for morale, you distribute them in the poor district, collect medicine, build more rooms, and then we have the 2 radio placement places, one in radio A and one in radio B, where you can collect intel, which is important for some missions, or you can request goods, you can request money or weapons or food, which are added to one of the fields. So these areas here, south of town in the fields. But when you request something from the radio, it's power drop to the fields and it can only be collected the following day, not the same day. Also, of course, we have the missions because we need to go up there and complete those missions. So this is the general idea. Each day you will alternate placing your own workers and placing milice and or German soldiers. Again, you will try to go back home safely. On the way home, if you have a weapon, you can use it to remove a member of the milice that has been placed already. But that will get the Germans pretty nervous and they start sending soldiers we cannot shoot. Again, you can spend fake IDs to move past that. But the idea is you place them, you place your workers as they also place their milice and hopefully they don't capture you. Then you resolve actions and you check if you're able to bring your members of the resistance home and you resolve the actions that you reserve to worker placement and you continue like this turn after turn. You win if you complete one of the both of the missions. You tie if you complete only one by the end of the game. You lose if you complete 0 missions by the end of the game, or if the town's morale reaches the fail space and just as time goes by, it'll go down. Also, you lose if all members of your organization have been captured. And when I lost, basically, I knew I was not going to finish the game, and it's a solitaire game, so I just conceded, and so I was able to set up the game again. And the game sets up so quickly. All you need to do is to shuffle this deck of cards, place 3 resistance members here, draw 2 cards, selecting a level of difficulty. The tokens are already placed there from the previous game, and that's pretty much it. You definitely get into that like one more game kind of feel. The production is good and very good actually, and the gameplay is excellent. I was just so impressed by seeing how an apparently fairly abstract mechanic such as worker placement could give you such a sense of history, could become so thematically rich and detailed. The map means so much. Protecting your escape routes means so much. Keeping a low profile, so different from so many other worker placements where more is better. No, you want to have a small, efficient net. Budgeting risks is so key because there are just some locations where you cannot go without taking some degree of risks. Remember, the one I showed you when I showed the example, I played it safe, ensuring that my people wouldn't make it home because it was an unbroken retreat line there. But that may not be the case. There may be an action that I absolutely desperately want, and then I do place it there, and I do hope that I'll be able to make it back, and I do hope that I won't get trapped by the melees. So budgeting, risk, planning, those are all things that are the heart of the game and makes this game really tense. Who knew the worker placements could be so tense, could be like a thriller? And huge replay value. These missions just play so differently. With two different missions, you basically have two different games. I'm really impressed because this game has so much tension, so much theme around a beloved modern game mechanic. It plays just as smoothly as the worker placements that you already love, and it does so by teaching you a sobering, powerful lesson about bravery in the face of dictatorship. So I'm really impressed with Maquis. It's one heck of a fun game. I think it's a remarkable game. It's an achievement, really, in how you can use a mechanic in ways that are unusual and feel so fresh and so compelling. Definitely, I like Maquis a lot.